Okay, we're good, Judy.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Dempsey, the community chef at the Table Community Food Center, and welcome to the Table at Home. This is, I think this is the second of the cooking series, and we do these on Tuesday at 10:30, and there is more of a tutorial to do with gardening, etc. on Thursdays at 1 o'clock. So join us. So today we're going to make summer bean salad. And this is a recipe that we make often at the table for our community meals. I make it often at my house because it's so nice. It came originally from one of our coordinators many years ago, Naomi DeWolf-Smith. And we've tweaked it a little bit over the years, but it is really, really delicious, and it really feels like summer when you make it and you eat it. So I'm going to show you today how to make it with a few tips on how to do things. So let's begin. And by the way, I want to also thank Joanna, who's behind the camera today, and she's going to talk to me and remind me of things during the broadcast. Okay, so you also, if you like, can read the recipe online. It is on our website under the recipe box if you want to follow along. So we're going to begin. Oh, by the way, I have to read it too. We're going to begin with the green beans. So I like to use green beans that are cooked and cooked well. And I like to also eat green beans out of the garden, but you shouldn't do too much of that because raw green beans can cause a little bit of a tummy upset or digestive problems. So they taste delicious, but don't eat a lot of those. So I cook them really well. And you can see they're in 1-inch pieces, roughly, you know, just rough. I just grab them together, move them along the board, if you get one long one. If you have yellow beans, awesome. This is something that is really delicious in the summer with whatever ingredients you have on hand. So today, though, we are using green beans from the grocery store that probably came from very far away. As you know, we do not have much in Ontario right now that's growing. So just going to do some more beans. If you have asparagus, that's coming. If you have asparagus, that's delicious. So try some of that, or try it all with asparagus. I'm trying to think of another alternative. Joanna, can you think of one that might be fun to use?
Not off the top. What I'm thinking about is whether there's a difference between chopping them first and cooking, or the other way around.
So I think it's easier to do when you chop them cooked. They're softer and more malleable. When they're rigid and raw, it's harder to cut easily and they fly all over the place. So I find it easier once they're cooked. So there they are. The next ingredient on the list are our dried beans. We didn't use dried beans, we used canned beans today. It's cheaper to use dried beans, although even canned beans aren't an expensive source of protein. So it's easy and quick if you buy canned beans. So there's 3 cans of beans right there. Black beans, chickpeas, and kidney beans. These are what are in the recipe. By no means feel tied to that. If you love chickpeas, then just use chickpeas. If you like those cans of mixed beans, use those. But it's good to use a legume type bean rather than this kind in can. So just to show you, I've taken a cup of black beans yesterday and filled up this beaker with water and soaked them overnight on the counter. They're ready to be cooked, although I will drain them and use fresh water to boil them. And you cook them. I don't like to boil them hard. I like to boil them, bring them to the boil and simmer them for a long time till they're nice and soft. The other thing too is do not add salt to your water because that makes the beans tough. So I'm just going to move these out of the way. Not particularly, well, I am a little clumsy, so I might turn that upside down. So next ingredient in our list is our medium red onion. So again, quantities are up to you. If you don't like green onion or don't like red onion, then don't add it. If you like green onion, use the tops. If you like chives and they're in the garden, beautiful, perfect. If you don't want onion at all, that's fine. So for nice thin slices, it's easy if you just take the, not the root end, but the stem end off. Take a nice layer of peel off. I have a compost there. And leave that on, it holds it together. Clean your board. Now I have a relatively sharp knife here. It's not super sharp. but you do need a thin blade to get thin slices. If you use one that has is wide here, it's not going to be easy to make thin slices. And go slowly. Make sure they're nice and thin. If you don't want slices and you want it chopped, do it. This is just about making something with fresh ingredients that tastes really good. So that's enough of that because I have lots extra, which one of my wonderful volunteers, Richard Negro, did for me. So we have lots there. Here's where we're starting, right here. So I'm going to put the onions in. I like lots of onions. There's all those beans. There's all those beans. Beautiful. Next on our list is peppers. So I like to use green and another sweet pepper, which are red or a yellow. I'm not putting red because I have red tomatoes, but yellow is delicious and the green gives it just a different fresh bite. So here's my way of doing peppers dice. Cut them in half. Use a small knife to take that core out. Then I like to cut it up again and then use that small knife to take out that white bit. Now, when you're cutting peppers, again, a thin knife helps, but also making sure that your board doesn't have any seeds on it, because if your knife hits a seed while you're chopping down here and it touches a seed there, that's when your knife can move and that's when it can cut you. So if you're using a green pepper that has sometimes in the summer we get really gorgeous local peppers that have really nice thick walls. If you get those, you have to cut these slices even thinner. You don't have to, but it's nicer if you have small dice for your salad. So cut a few slices and cut them into little tiny dice. And these weren't particularly medium peppers, they were kind of large, so I've got quite a bit chopped already. That's not needed. I'll use that for something else tomorrow in the community meal. Okay. One thing that's really helpful in the kitchen when you're cutting on your board is to have a damp cloth underneath that keeps your board in place on the counter. Okay, what's next? Come on, Joanna, tell me. Okay, I know what it is. Never mind. She doesn't know.
Tomatoes.
Thank you. Okay, so grape tomatoes. They don't have to be grape tomatoes if you don't have them. They can be cherry tomatoes if you have them. They can be regular tomatoes if you have them. It doesn't matter. So whatever knife you like. I like to cut them in half lengthwise. They just look prettier than this, to me.
Judy, if we had a big tomato, you know when you cut it into cubes, it kind of gets watery.
Yes.
Would that impact anything, or?
If it's a super wet tomato, there's so much flavor in that liquid, I probably would add it anyway. But if you find that there's a lot of liquid and watery seeds left on your board, save that in a container, and then you can stick it in your fridge, and in the next day or so, whatever you're cooking, add that to your cooking, and that's tomato water. If you want to strain it, you could do so. Tomato water, which has flavor. And so say you're cooking some pasta, or you're I can't think of what you're making, some soup, whatever, add it in. But generally I would add it to the salad because it's a nice acidic bite. So there's our tomatoes cut. But I think we should have more. What do you think, Joanna?
Yeah, I think we need more red.
Yes, I do too.
Do we have more?
Somewhere. Just one moment, please. Off camera. Hey, maybe we can talk a little bit about our new schedule at the Table Community Food Center.
Yeah. So what is happening with the programming?
Well, during this particular unusual time that we're in, we are suspended our general food skills program and gardening program, and right now we're focused on meals, community meals, and food bank. So we still offer the food bank Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But on Tuesday, we are just doing food bank deliveries. So if you need a delivery made instead because you can't come out or you prefer that, you can call any time for a Tuesday delivery. Anytime during the week, call the food bank, leave your name and number, and we'll call you back to make the arrangements for a Tuesday delivery. The meals are we're still doing those Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're packaging them up with a touchless service, and you can come and pick those up as well between 4:30 and 6. Okay, what's next, Joanna?
I don't know. Michelle says we need more tomatoes.
More tomatoes, Michelle. Okay, I'm gonna do them all. Fine, I agree. Actually, I really do agree because they look so pretty and they really give a good taste.
I think we're all craving garden tomatoes right now.
Kidding, right?
Yeah.
Even right now, I want to smell a tomato stem. That'll do it for me.
There you go.
Yeah. So after the tomatoes, we're gonna do some celery. And I have a little trick or a few ideas about how to do celery and make it easy on yourself. One thing is not to try to cut a whole stem of celery at once if you're trying to do that. I like to cut it up in sections and work on the sections at one time. And also, don't have the thing you're trying to cut longer than the blade of your knife. That's dangerous, trying to draw your knife along that way. It's much easier if you cut it up into manageable sections like that. And just cut some little batons here. And do stay small for your celery. I've already got quite a bit already chopped. Celery is such a hard vegetable that it's really nice when it's done small. It'll be nice and crunchy in this salad, and it'll have not be too much or overpowering, especially if you don't have the best chewing powder. There we go, that's lots. Does Michelle think we should put more celery in?
I'm not sure. I think she's satisfied with the tomatoes.
Okay. Hey, the bowl's getting pretty full. There's not a lot left to add, but what there is are the herbs, and this is really key. So I've got all the herbs that are listed in the recipe. You do not need to use them all. I am going to use them all today, though, because I have them. So Italian parsley, dill, mint, basil, tarragon, and cilantro. People think I put cilantro in everything, and maybe that's true, but I'm not putting a lot in today. So here's my technique for, you know, when you get a bunch of something, dill, cilantro, basil, or whatever, at the store, and it's more than you can use for a recipe. If that's the case, then what I like to do is pick these herbs. So, and I don't get them wet first, I do them dry. Pick the herbs. Try to get rid of any coarse stems. Sometimes dill will let you pull it, sometimes it won't. And then whatever you're not going to use, you can put that in a plastic bag of some sort with a dry paper towel on the bottom, close it up with a bit of air, and that'll keep the herb very nice for a long time. And then when you're ready to use it, you can wash it. As soon as you wash this, it's going to be wet, and then it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad way faster. So this is a really good method to have herbs on hand in your kitchen and to not waste. So that's dill. Mint, same thing, just take the stem, just take the leaves off the stem. We have a question. Do we have a question?
Oh no, Aaron Duthie says more cilantro.
Okay, Aaron. Always more cilantro, Aaron.
We do have a dill enthusiast also, but we're just gonna...
Okay, Italian parsley. Why Italian parsley and not curly parsley? Well, my preference is Italian parsley. It tastes delicious. It's also, I like the texture of it better. But if you're a curly parsley fan, by all means use it. And depending on where you get these herbs, if these are grocery store herbs, you're going to need more. If you're getting them out of your garden in the summer, you need less because those garden ones are going to have tons of flavor. These, unfortunately, are not garden ones yet. Tarragon. Tarragon packs a punch. You don't need as much of that. So it tends to, when you buy it at the grocery store and even out of your garden, tends to be a wee bit soft and fragile and wilty. So you just have to handle that a bit differently. And basil, same thing. I'm not even going to do that now. Cilantro. You can just pick the leaves if you like. Personally, normally I just pick it right there and chop the whole thing. That's a personal choice. For today, I have taken it somewhere here. I don't know where. There it is. I've just taken the leaves. So I'm just going to scrap all that because this is ready to go. Now, you can't just take all your herbs, mix them together, put them in a pile and chop them all up because they all need to be chopped a little bit differently. Cilantro. Here's for you, Aaron. Cilantro doesn't need a lot of chopping. It's so soft and fragile. It just needs a little bit of chop. That's probably it. So I'm going to amass my herbs right here. Wow, that's hardly any cilantro. I'm shocked. The basil has lots of flavor, but it's kind of like that. If you chop it up too much, it's going to get bruised and wilted. So and mushy. So I'm just going to roll it all up. You don't have to be fancy. And that's it. That's nice. The tarragon, as I say, it has a lot of power and flavor, so I'm not putting a lot of that in. But I do want to chop that a bit smaller. Even though it's soft, I don't want someone to get a big, huge bite of just tarragon in this dish.
Well, how would you describe the flavor of tarragon for...
Licorice.
Right.
And there's two kinds of tarragon, right, Joanna?
That's right.
There's French tarragon and there's Russian tarragon.
The Russian grows bigger.
Russian grows very well, but it doesn't taste as good. It's really great if you want to put it in your garden and look at the flowers, I think. Or you want to fill a space in your garden.
Fill a space, it turns into a shrub.
Italian parsley, I don't want to chop that up super fine, even though Richard would have disagreed. But I like to see it a little bit. Now, the mint. This is where I do want you to pile the leaves. Because mint is a little bit tough and it also has a lot of flavor. So it needs to be small. So I did stack the leaves and just pile them up a little bit. That looks nice, but it's not enough. So I'm just gonna take a little bit more of the leaves. And again, if this is coming out of your garden, then you're gonna use less. Dill. So right now, same with dill. Dill out of your garden has so much delicious flavor, but this dill here is, you know, it's good, but you need a lot more of it. So I'm actually gonna try and use all the dill. When you're washing your herbs for use, it's a really good practice to wash them in a lot of water and lift them out of the water into your salad spinner so that you leave behind any of the grit and dirt in the water. If you just pour the water off, what happens is that dirt stays in the bowl and stays with your herbs. So in a big bowl of water, lift it out with a little skimmer or your hands into a bowl or spinner, and then toss that water. Spin your herbs as dry as you can. Put them on a paper towel if your spinner's not that great, which most spinners aren't. Dill and tarragon are difficult in a spinner because they usually slip through the holes. So I like to do dill up again a little bit small because it has a lot of flavor. If you don't like dill, don't add it. This is definitely a salad that you can customize to what you like. Okay, that looks great.
Is there any one particular herb that just makes this salad, or?
That's my personal choice.
Right.
For me, it's a combination. This comes alive with lots of flavors, and you can see how much it's going to make. This is actually, the recipe says serve 6. Probably put a 1 in front of the 6. It's actually going to serve like 16, or it's going to serve 6 a couple of times, a couple of days, and it keeps really well in the fridge. So I'm going to, that bowl is really getting quite small, and we're in a house, so we don't have a bigger bowl than that, but I'm going to add this anyway. Now the dressing. Dressing says to mix it in a bowl separately, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So what the recipe calls for is 1/3 cup of sugar. That sounds like a lot. So if you're concerned that it's going to be too sweet, don't add it all at once. You can always add some more later. I'm pretty confident that it's going to need that.
Could you use maple syrup or honey instead?
Yes, if you're going to use honey in particular, you have to mix the dressing separately, or else the honey will stay somewhere in the salad. It's really hard to get it blended. But yes, absolutely. Maple syrup as well. Again, that's to taste. I wouldn't know how much to add. But yeah, for sure, if you have those things, that'd be great. So I'm going to add this vinegar. Now, I like to use in the kitchen for general easy salads apple cider vinegar. It's not expensive and it has great taste. I mean, it's got a little bit of nice flavor. It's not really sharp in my nose like white vinegar, which is also good, but this one is good. Now, this one calls for 1/2 cup of vinegar. I think that's probably good. We're going to taste it after. And some oil, and I'm just using vegetable oil, like nothing special. But if you want to use olive oil, something a little more expensive, go for it. Pepper. So it's nice to have a nice amount of pepper. Now when we do community meals at the table, I tend to not make things spicy, so I probably don't add pepper. We do serve pepper at the table, so people can make things, and hot sauce, so people can make things spicy as they wish. But I tend not to add pepper very often. But you can see how pretty this is coming. And I'm going to taste it for salt before I add salt. What do you think, Joanna?
I think it's good. I'm still kind of thinking about the herbs. When you're combining flavors,
yes.
Are there any particular herbs that you would say you should definitely not put together?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that question. I think it depends on the dish that you're making.
Right.
So, and it also depends too on the dish you're making. Like in a salad, I think it's okay to add all these herbs. I'd be more concerned about what happens to this basil leaf when it's in the beginning part of cooking chicken, for example, a cooked thing, because it's going to disappear. It's going to get black or dark and disappear. So you'll have to add more at the end for freshness. In this case, they still stay fresh in flavor. I don't know the answer to that one. I'll have to think about that. But if there's people online who have thoughts about that, we'd love to hear it. That'd be great. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a little taste. I'm going to go right to the bottom, wherever that dressing is. Let's see. Okay, this one needs a little bit of salt. So I'm using, I just use coarse salt, which is just the same as pickling salt. If you like to use that, great. If you like to use sea salt, great. I tend not to use iodized kitchen salt or whatever you call it, table salt, because I don't like the taste of it, and also you can over salt things because the granules are so small and fine. So I like it when you use pickling salt or sea salt or some other coarse salt ground into it. Yeah, try it now.
Wayne is asking, would you add feta cheese?
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. Sorry. Okay, it tastes good now. I added maybe a teaspoon of salt. If you're going to add feta cheese, you might not even have to add salt at all. If you're going to add feta cheese, add it just before you're serving it, as opposed to early, because I think it's going to take on colors from there and not look as pretty. I think feta cheese would be amazing in there. Great idea, Wayne. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little dish of it. And I served this last Friday at the table in our takeout meal. There, what do you think, Joanna?
I think I'm ready for lunch.
Lunchtime.
Yep.
So it's an inexpensive dish. However, you do need to buy the herbs. So if you buy a couple of those herbs and you make sure you use them in other dishes, then you've got your money's worth. Certainly the cans of beans probably came to about $4 at the most, probably $3, and they would be certainly cheaper if you use dried beans. And these are inexpensive as well, the oil and vinegar. The peppers at this moment are expensive, so you could add less of those. Tomatoes, same thing. You know, everything right now is kind of pricey, but it's a nutrition-packed dish, so you get a lot for your money there.
Cedar's asking about black olives.
Oh, Cedar, you love those black olives. Black olives would be amazing. So, yes, black olives would be great. I would personally I would take those whole black olives and I would pit them on the table. I don't have any to show you my technique for that, but just so that no one accidentally takes a bite of a pit and breaks a tooth. That's just me. In a mixed salad like this with many colors, I think that's better. When you have a Greek salad where they're just sort of floating on the top and they're really obvious, then it's okay to have whole olives, but in this case, I would probably pit them myself. And pitted olives that you buy already pitted are not as good as the ones you pit yourselves.
Very good.
Yeah. So, I'd like to thank Joanna for being my mentor today. She's the expert, and for handling the camera and asking the questions. Thank you, Joanna.
Yeah, and just wanted to remind people that if you do have more questions, you can still,
Yes. still keep posting them, and we'll keep answering them going forward. Also, I just want to also remind you that our next broadcast is on Thursday at 1 o'clock, and Joanna will be doing a seed starting tutorial, seeds for your garden. And you know, garden time is coming soon, so that's at 1 o'clock with Joanna Kowalczyk. Thank you.